Hi everybody, David Nour. I want to welcome you to, first Periscope in about a month. I'm a big believer of balancing all that we do for work and personal time. And actually took a month, went out to UK with the family. We went to not just London, but southern UK as well. And it was just a great break, great chance to get away. And it's just hard to do these things from the road and while you have family time and all kinds of good stuff. So it's good to be back. I love doing these because I share ideas, I share perspectives about something I'm passionate about, which is business relationships. One of the things that we may also do in the next month or so is use Facebook Live. I have a lot of already existing relationships. A lot of people follow me on Facebook and get my content on Facebook. So stay tuned. If you subscribe to our newsletter, if you've been to my website, if you belong to our private community called NourNet, if you follow me on Twitter, which is just @DavidNour, I'll announce these things. But I may stay on Periscope or just move on to Facebook Live. It seems like a logical existing presence. What I'm also doing is I'm launching, I don't know if you can see the whole thing, I'm launching a series over the next 10 weeks of what I call relationship impact moments. In studying business relationships over the last, almost 2 decades, I've observed some very specific individuals and teams and organizations do these 10 things phenomenally well, exceptionally well. More importantly, they're very consistent about doing them. And I'm often asked, how can I build a better relationship? How can I accelerate getting this job or getting this deal or going into a new market or launching a new product or service? And it seems like everybody's looking for a quick hit, right? And I talk about in the matrix vernacular, there's no blue or red pill. There is no way for me to accelerate that meal cooking in 5 minutes, unless you want to microwave it, versus the hour it takes in the oven or all day it takes in the crock pot. So unfortunately, there's certain things you can do to accelerate, but you can't get there overnight. And it's just really difficult to try to convey to people that business relationships, if they're worth doing, it's an incredible investment of time, effort, resources. So the 10 relationship impact moments, very quickly, let me go over the 10. And today's session is on the first one, which is empathy. So number 1, empathy, walk in their shoes. And I'll talk more about that. Number 2, engagement. You got to show up. You got to show up consistently. 3, adaptability. I know you may sell a product or a service, and a lot of your clients may be very similar, but you really want to tailor it. And you want to make sure your clients or your relationships feel like they're your only relationship, right? 4, perspective, change their lens. Change their lens. Give them a different view. One of my favorite movies, Robin Williams with Dead Poets Society. I don't know if you remember or if you've seen the movie, but he got his students to stand on top of their desks so they could get a different view of their classroom, different view of their surroundings. So 4 is perspective, change their lens. 5, conviction. Bring a point of view. Bring a unique point of view. If I got on these things and I said, "Hi, my name is David, and I'm really excited to be here with you and talk about relationships," that's not very believable. So you have to have a certain passion, certain conviction about topics you believe in. That's number 5. Number 6, collaboration. I've always said collaboration, for sake of collaboration, is a waste of time. Collaboration to make the end result stronger is priceless. So what are you doing to help your relationships be better off because of you? 7, selflessness. In my experience, the more you reduce your self-interest, the more likely the other side, the relationship, is to give you ideas, insights of how you can help, how you can be an asset. So stop going to meetings where it's all about you, because everybody's favorite subject is themselves, right? Start asking questions about them. Start engaging them of what's a priority to them, what's of interest to them, what do they care about. Excuse me. Number 8, accountability. Own it. I have 0 relationships that are excited, interested in passing the buck. So if you don't screw things up, you're not human. It's what you choose to do with it after you screw it up, after you make a mistake. So accountability is all about owning it. Listen, we made a mistake, and I apologize, but here's what I think we can do to fix it. Number 9, candor. Say what others won't. Say what others can't. I work and I coach a lot of executives, and unfortunately, the higher you go, the lonelier the job becomes, and the more you're surrounded with yes people. They'll tell you what you want to hear, what they really believe in is there is no way that's going to work. Candor, and I tell my clients, you're going to either love my candor or you're going to hate my candor, but that's what you're going to get. So candor is having that fortitude to say what others are thinking, but either they can't or they're not willing to say it. So candor is a huge asset in your strategic relationships. 10 is improvement. Up their game. Up their game. Again, how are other people better off because of you? How are they value that relationship? I have people that tell me, well, I don't get return calls and emails. Well, maybe because you're not a priority. Maybe because you're not as strategic to them, as valuable to them as they are to you. So for those of you joining us a little late, number 1, thanks for being here. Number 2, I'll make this available on our website as well. This is the 10 relationship impact moments. Very quickly. Number 1, empathy, walk in their shoes. 2, engagement, show up. 3, adaptability, tailor it. 4, perspective, change their lens. 5, conviction, bring a point of view. 6, collaboration, make it stronger together. 7, selflessness, reduce or lower your self-interest. 8, accountability, own it. 9, candor, say what others won't or can't. 10, improvement, up their game. Elevate their game, make sure they're better off because of you. So today's session really is on empathy. We hear this all the time, and I'm always curious of what people say, what do they mean when they, again, if you know my story, I came to the U.S. in 1981 with a suitcase, $100, didn't know anybody, and didn't speak a word of English. And one of the things I've learned over the years is language is incredibly powerful. And I don't think we spend enough time really perfecting this really valuable form of communication. So we've all heard empathy. We've all heard walk in somebody's shoes. I've always wondered, what the heck does that mean? Really? What is that? So what I've observed in people who build great relationships that really help them, business relationships in particular, that help them get to new heights, that really help them grow personally and professionally, they're masterful at empathy. You go in a meeting, and I don't know if this has happened to you or not, but you go in a meeting and you feel like that person really gets you. That really person is, they're in tune. And layman's term is just that, they get me, or we have chemistry, or man, Jim is a phenomenal listener, or Beth is just so in tune with kind of where I am. And you genuinely enjoy being around these people. And if you open your eyes, if you open your ears, I would submit these people have developed the knack for empathy. So very quickly, it really is the experience of understanding someone else's condition from their perspective, right? One of the challenges with business relationships is we walk in with an agenda. We walk in trying to sell people a product or service, or in that meeting we want to get our tasks done, or listen, it's not important to me what you think, let me tell you what I think, and here's what we got to get done. And if you look at a condition from their lens, from their perspective, could that help you engage? Could that help you influence others more efficiently, more effectively, more impactfully? So again, empathy is the experience of understanding another person's condition from their point of view, from their perspective. So you've heard the expression of place people, putting yourself in their shoes and feeling what they're feeling. That's really difficult for most of us. I distinctly remember meeting with a client, and I don't know if this has ever happened to you or not, but I show up at the meeting and the person is physically there, but emotionally they're just not there. So I said, hold on a second, let me just call him John. I said, John, you just don't seem like yourself today. And he says, my wife of 17 years woke up this morning and decides that she no longer wants to be married. I mean, you could just feel the guy's pain. You could feel that he is just emotionally just drained, right? Kind of confusion and anger and all the, excuse me. And particularly for us guys, that's not part of the business dealings. That's typically not part of what we do well, right? So what do you think would have happened if I told John, well, that's great, let's get back to business? Yeah, I would have completely lost, I would have lost any kind of credibility, any kind of empathy with this guy. So I said, let's get out of the office and let's just go for a walk. And we spent 45 minutes walking, and I've learned this from my wife, right? They don't want answers, they don't want you to solve the problem, they just often want you to just listen. So I just listen, and just the guy's pouring out his heart, and it's just cringing, right? And at the end, he apologized. He said, listen, I know you didn't come to hear my sob stories, and we only had an hour, and we spent, 45 minutes talking about my issues. And I said, don't worry about it. I did 5 different projects with him that year. So you've heard this expression. I'm just not convinced how often it resonates with people. They're not going to care how much you know until they get a genuine sense that you care, until they fundamentally and deeply believe that you care about them as individuals. So what I want you to take away, just very quickly, there's 3 types of empathy. First one is just perspective taking. And as you can imagine, it's just seeing it from their point of view. And it starts with really distinct, really succinct listening. So you have to dispense your own beliefs. You have to set aside your own emotions, your own feelings, your own thinking, and just listen to where they're coming from. And you also want to ask some clarifying questions. That's interesting. How did you get there? How did you see that scenario that way? What made you think that? Right? So really inquiring about where they're coming from. The second one is personal distress. Personal distress is really feeling their emotions. It's similar to, and I don't like horror movies, but if you ever see a scary scene, you're almost transported there, and you can feel their anxiety, their fear, right? It's also when we see people think of, I don't know if you ever approached accidents. I'm a first responder, and when you approach an accident, I'm also a Boy Scout leader, and when a kid gets hurt, you can see fear in there, especially if it's a cut or a break or something. You can feel their hurt, their pain, their fear, right? So that's a personal distress. And the third one is an empathetic concern. And this is what most of us really think about when we think of empathy, which is, I understand where you're coming from, I share your concerns, I share your thoughts on this idea. The reason they're important is they really represent different aspects of our personalities. So somebody could be a really strong, a high in perspective taking, is not going to understand other people's point of view. And they're not going to be very good at their emotions. Conversely, you could emotionally feel what I feel, but you intellectually don't understand where I'm coming from. So the reason I bring that up is this is really important in business relationships. Again, that's why it's number 1 on this top 10 relationship. It's right down here, right? Top 10, what I call relationship impact moments, is that if you can't get away from just your lens, you're going to have a really hard time genuinely, authentically relating to other people, engaging other people, understanding where they're coming from. Listen, we all have experiences. We've all arrived at this point based on those experiences, based on those skills, the knowledge, the things we've done. If business relationships are important to you, personally, professionally, you have to kind of get yourself almost like a third person point of view. Imagine if there was a GoPro camera or something looking back here at this scenario, or even ideally take the camera from their angle and look at the scenario from their lens and try to understand where they're coming from. I've seen this be really helpful in compensation, in reviews, in coaching, in mentoring. I was with a CEO earlier today, and I heard he is really busy. And I said, listen, don't confuse busyness and motion with productivity. So when you get on a plane and go to London for a few days, what kind of opportunity cost are you leaving behind in the things you got to get done back in the office? That's simply looking through that scenario from his lens, is being pulled in a lot of different directions. So I hope this has been useful to you. Again, I'm launching this series, 10 Relationship Impact Moments. I'll cover one each week. They're always Tuesdays at 1 o'clock Eastern. Obviously, we'll also record these and put them up on Facebook. Somebody's asking if they can ask something. Sure, please type it up, and I'm happy to answer it while I'm here. As long as it's appropriate and relevant, I'm happy to address those. But these 10 relationship impact moments, in my experience, again, I've seen over 2 decades, individuals, teams, and organizations that build phenomenal relationships. They do these 10 things really well. So thanks for coming. I appreciate it, and look forward to the next session. Again, Tuesday, 1 o'clock Eastern, and we'll go from there. Thanks, everybody. All the best. Take care.